Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salailo Makwidiri. And we're going to be shifting gears now to a very, very important turn of events. A story that we've been following quite closely here on Salam Media. Is being hailed as a historic shift in North Africa's political landscape. Morocco has welcomed a new United Nations Security Council resolution endorsing its autonomy plan for Western Sahara under Moroccan sovereignty in a national address following the decision of King Mohammed, declaring that this is a turning point in Morocco's modern history, signaling the end of decades of conflict over the disputed territory and beginning of what he called a new era for a unified Morocco. And yeah, there's been a lot of criticism from that resolution. One coming from South Africa, which has voiced sharp criticism of the United Nations Security Council's latest approval resolution on Western Sahara, accusing it of favoring Morocco's autonomy plan while sidelining the principles of self-determination championed by Frente Polisario. Speaking at the UN, Deputy Permanent Representative Martinez van Schalkwyk warned that the council's move risked eroding its impartiality and undermining the core mandate of the UN mission for the referendum in Western Sahara. And yeah, we're going to be unpacking the story, what it means for the people of Western Sahara and their quest for self-determination. And we're going to be speaking to researcher from we're going to be speaking to researcher I just lost my bearings there. Dr. Atabongwoung. He's an independent researcher and analyst, and he has been following what's been happening in the Sahelian region and Morocco and Western Sahara relations for some time now. Doc, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you giving us your time. Good morning.
Good morning, Lilo. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning.
No, the pleasure's all ours. I think let's jump right into it. What should we make of this, resolution of Western Sahara and Morocco and the UN hailing it as historic? What do you think it means just for the broader conversation around Western Sahara and its quest for self-determination?
So, Lilo, you see, nothing surprises us as we certainly are in a post colonial era where things seemingly remains the same. I think the broader conversation we should be having is around leadership in geopolitics. We understand today that everything is based on transactional type of relationship. Whatever is the outcome of that discussion from the UN Security Council, it doesn't surprise us because it's just a follow up of a lot of contradictory um, decisions that have been taken over time. You remember from the failed referendum of the 19th of 1991 um, that the Saharis were not given the opportunity to decide whether they are an integral part of the Kingdom of Morocco or they want to opt for a Sahrawi independence. We all know that the Moroccans have been actually working so hard to um, wipe away the Sahrawi cause, which
Mm,
unfortunately the Sahrawi cause is not an issue that can be erased. Remember, if you read the words of one former United States President Woodrow Wilson, who said, I quote, people are not to be handed about from one sovereignty to another by an international conference or an understanding between rivals and antagonists. National aspiration must be respected. People may now be dominated and governed only by their own consent. Self determination is not a mere phrase, it is an imperative principle of action. I mean, with this, you realize that the outcome of the Security Council is just a contradiction to such statements that are even enshrined into the United Nations Charter references to various clauses that deals with the issue of self-determination. The Sahrawi people remain resilient. Um, this is, the decision lies in the face of logic. For me, I think I should narrow down to talk about the weaknesses of the African Union,
Mm,
which supposed to govern political issues in Africa. The Moroccans have not won and they will never win in this particular matter. What I can guarantee you, Selailo, is that the Moroccans will not go and invade the 20 to 30% territory that the Polisario is governing for the simple fact that they are not even convinced. The joy and the rejoicing in Morocco, it's just an issue like an empty monument. You see the
mm,
beauty outside, when you go inside, it's actually empty, and then it brings frustration. Because if you look at all from the 11 parties who voted for, the three others who voted against, and those who abstained, you always hear about the critical issue of having a conversation, a consensus that is workable for both parties. In the case of Western Sahara, there is no consensus on the Moroccan sovereignty that can work, because we understand that we look at history and we still have our memories. How much the Moroccans and the Sahrawis have nothing in common. We can't force an integration of the Sahrawis into the Moroccan society. For me, sometimes I often say that it's even a danger for the Moroccans to want the Sahrawis to be forcefully integrated, because
mm,
we understand exactly the danger when communities are forcefully integrated to places. Not only the eruption that is often caused because of sentiment of marginalization, but how much some of these feelings can be transformed into violence and create total instability in communities. So this thing, what is the African Union saying? Because I understand, I know the next step of the Moroccans will probably be to try to break the African Union, to expel the Western Sahara membership from the Union. I mean, the Sahrawi is the founding member of the African Union. I mean, the archives are there. There is nothing that can remove them.
mm,
So, with all these decisions, for us, we understand how much money has been given to individuals. So, it's not a thing that bothered us, because we understand government comes and goes. We are looking forward to another time where credible individuals will sit in the United Nations Security Council, and all these decisions will be revoked. For me, personally, I just feel pity that the African Union today still remain an organization that is complacent,
mm,
an organization that is compromised, an organization that is not genuine in itself in terms of how it approaches this thing, and the huge resources that the Moroccan government is wasting on this matter. The basis and essence to understand if there is a proper concession is to ask the Sahrawi people on the basis of a referendum. Do you think, or are you part of the Kingdom of Morocco, or do you want to maintain your political independence? Let's see the outcome of such referendum and how it takes us. The
mm,
Moroccans have been fighting hard to stop such referendum, which is the base for self-determination or proper political alignment. Let's get to it and see. So for the Sahrawi people, gentlemen, they understand, where this is going. They remain resilient, even those who are in the occupied territories in Morocco. Such decision doesn't deter them from fighting. They will keep fighting. One thing I must just say in passing is to commend the government of Algeria for all this historic effort that it has been, whatever they have been doing to see that the Sahrawis have, a peaceable outcome in their struggle. I mean, if we had had five governments like Algeria and South Africa, I am convinced the issue of Western Sahara would have been resolved.
Mm,
Because you cannot take a decision at the level of the United Nations Security Council, which is contrary to the fundamentals of the African Union. Now, the Sahrawi is member of the African Union, and the United Nations Security Council is proposing, a sovereignty or a self-determination within the framework of the Moroccan sovereignty, which is a document that was written for the Moroccans by French experts who are guilty of violent colonialism and destruction of African society. I mean, such references is nonsensical when we look
mm,
into how difficult it is to reconstruct post-colonial African states, because these states you know, were created based on the basis of transactionality. I mean, look at, for example, Cameroon, which is another worst case scenario where the Anglophones were forced to reintegrate with the Francophones and see the
mm,
marginalization and the violence since 2016 that has killed more than 20,000 people. So, this is just to laugh at, such decision is just laughable because human beings are not objects, no matter how much you try to objectify their life, they can't be objects. They are people
mm,
with faculties, people with emotions. Imagine taking the Sahrawis in the desert, my dear, say, if you have been there, and forcing them within, a territorial bonds of Morocco, what may happen? The Moroccans think they are smart. They are not smart enough. I mean, there's nothing that can destroy the resilience of the people, the will.
mm,
The Sahara will have that will. That is what is left with them. For Africa, I keep saying Africa has failed the Sahrawi by readmitting the Kingdom of Morocco into the African Union. That is, in the first place, something that should not have been done. We have strong voices in South Africa which I commend the position of the ANC that keeps talking on behalf of the Sahrawi. My only fear and worries is I pray it does not happen if the ANC is not in power. What then
mm,
becomes of that voice? Because even South Africa's political landscape is changing. It is a reflection of political reality. No one can blame what is going on. But if we don't have the ANC, which is a strong voice for the Polisario, what then happens? Notwithstanding, we still have intellectuals like you and myself who still have memories of history and credible facts in history. We know how states, are built and how states operate and function. So, the Sahrawis remain and their issues remain dear in our hearts. We will not change our position.
mm,
The only credible solution that the United Nations Security Council should do is to call for a referendum. The question we may also ask is, okay, if they see the options of the of sovereignty under Moroccan autonomy is viable, why are they extending the mandate of MINUSO, the United Nations agency that it was planted in the Western Sahara towards the issue of self-determination? Why are they extending the mandate? It's also because we understand they themselves will know in the Security Council that when another government comes, all these decisions can be revoked. Because if
mm,
you go to the archives of the United Nations Security Council, you see documents that are well stated that the most viable option for this is a referendum. So how do those documents just get lost, in the face of all this? The Moroccans have been trying hard, but the more they try, I think to me, the more they fail because there is no logic in all that. And all what they're rejoicing and everything is just the cry of a baby. You can't know what is inside. It's empty, like I said.
mm. Dr. Atabongwoung, thank you so much for joining us. I think you've ticked almost every point and every question that I wanted to ask. Really, really appreciate you giving us your time this morning. And yeah, thank you for joining us in such a short notice. Hope we chat
No
again soon.
worries. Thank you very much, Salel.
That was Dr. Gallous Atabongwoung, independent researcher, breaking down the implications of the United Nations backing of Morocco's autonomy plan for Western Sahara. And while the people in Morocco seem to be celebrating what they call a consolidation of their sovereignty, questions of self determination, justice, and regional reconciliation remain very much unresolved, especially for the people of Western Sahara and for the African continent. This could definitely be a defining moment between lasting peace and renewed political polarization. I will continue following Western Sahara quite closely. I think it's important that it continues to be in the conversation along, the various other conflicts that are currently ongoing on the African continent, whether it's in Sudan, Cameroon, Tanzania. There's so much happening, but Western Sahara and the quest for self-determination should be one we don't keep quiet about, because it is, in essence, the last remaining colony on the African continent by Morocco, which has the backing of the West because of their own interests in Western Sahara. So, yeah, very, very important story to follow. And thank you so much for those really, really wonderful insights and analysis by Dr. Atabongwoung. We're going to take a quick break. News and views continues after this.